Full name is Christopher Bovell. I live in Hartford, born and raised. I entered the U.S. Army in 2012 January. I was Army. Uh, I served in 4-2 Infantry Division, and general locations was Fort Lewis, Washington, and Afghanistan. At the time, I was living with my dad in Hartford, and the reason for joining was I didn't really know what I wanted to do in school, so I figured I'd spend some time in the Army and figure it out. And I picked the Army because I had my uncle in the Army back in Desert Storm, so he kind of like drafted me towards that service more so. My first days in service was basic training at what they call Fort Benning School for Boys. At the time I was in the U.S. Army, there was only males allowed in combat, MOS's combat jobs. So I spent basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, and obviously I went in the winter/springtime. My first day in service were pretty, wasn't shell shocking, but it was adjustment period. Getting indoctrinated into the U.S. Army was a little different. As far as how did it feel, like I said, it's just a shell shocker. You're in a bay with other 50, 60 other dudes, and it's really like breaking you down out of the civilian role into like the military mindset, working out constantly, eating not really what you want to eat, sleeping when they tell you to sleep, waking up when they tell you to wake up. It's a shock. Boot camp experiences. Um, Historically, the infantry tends to be harder on soldiers, even in initial boot camp, just to supposedly get them tough enough for the infantry. Uh, my instructors, as my instructors, a lot of my instructors were just coming off the line. When I say coming off the line, just coming out of a deployment, coming like straight from deployment into drill sergeant school, and that makes them a little antsy. Drill sergeant school, for most people, is not something they picked. It's just something you have to do to progress your career. So imagine coming from a role where you're overseas with soldiers actually doing your job, and you come to train people that don't know the job at all. It can be a little annoying, so they kind of take that out on you. But I mean, it just gets you tougher for when you deploy. It's not a bad thing. Uh, about the experience in the whole, like I didn't feel too bad. It wasn't horrible. It made me tough now. It gives you discipline as a soldier. Like the benefits far outweigh what I mean. I can't say far outweigh what could happen, but I mean for me personally, they outweigh what did happen. And getting through it wasn't difficult. It's just a mental thing. No, mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter type of thing. It's all about what you want to take from it. I got my GI Bill. I got a good job from it. Like I really can't have any complaints about joining the military. Uh, and my instructors, I remember them to this day. Some of them I'm cool with. Some of them I actually got a chance to see in the Army, like later in my career. Uh, I thank them personally because, like I said, they made me tough enough to make it through deployments, make it through Afghanistan, come home, made me a better soldier and whole. I feel like that's something that most soldiers should have to go through. They should have to go through an infantry type basic training just to make you what you need to be a soldier in general. Ready?
Yep.
After boot camp, I got pulled to 4-2. 4-2 is 4th Infantry Division, Fort Lewis, Washington, Striker Battalions, uh, which is basically mechanized infantry, but what they call hybrid infantry. So we're mechanized, but we still are light infantry in that aspect, which basically means like we use vehicles to get to our point, and then we walk to our point after that. Uh, my first impression when I arrived there, my unit was actually training to go to Afghanistan. They were in NTC, which is in California. It's a training site where they send the unit there for 30 days to 60 days, and they train up getting ready for desert conditions, getting ready for missions, stuff like that. So when I got there, I didn't really get the chance to do any like unit training. I basically went straight overseas to Afghanistan with just my basic training knowledge, whatever you want to call it. Uh, Typical day for me in service is at home, I should say. At home when you're stateside, you wake up at about 5 o'clock, 4:30. You get ready for formation. Formation is usually at like 5:30. After formation, we do PT from about 5:30 to 7. Uh, on like a Monday morning, typical Monday mornings, 3 or 4 mile run. After you do 3 or 4 miles, you're basically off until around 9 o'clock. So you usually hit breakfast with your boys, with your brothers, and you come back for another formation. That formation is usually the multiple formation. Where on a Monday you go check your vehicles. On a Monday you do all your inspections, get all that stuff ready for the week. And after that, in the infantry, it's not really much to do unless you are actually actively training to deploy. So either you're training up your soldiers if you're a team leader, which I was. I was a team leader for a while. And if you're not, you're just in the gym, to be honest with you. So it's really about keeping your body fit in the infantry, being ready to deploy at any time. It's a real big issue in the infantry. They like to have their soldiers, fit mentally and their body fit. As far as senior combat, I was in RC South, and I am a recipient of what they call a CIB, which is a Combat Infantryman's Badge. I was in RC South, which is southern Afghanistan, it's like the tip of Afghanistan. Where I was is what they call the Horn of Panjway. Horn of Panjway is kind of where what they say the Taliban is created as their homeland. Basically, back in I want to say the 70s, the U.S. started to train the Taliban in order to keep the Russians out of Afghanistan. So this is where they trained them. So this is a very near and dear place to the Taliban. Is what you would describe as combat is every day over there. Like you wake up, they're shooting. You go to sleep, they're shooting, and it's a weird feeling, but you get used to it. I can't really remember a day where it was quiet. We didn't hear something, gunshots or something. If you didn't hear something, you probably thought it was a little bit more awkward than not hear something. Like I said, even before we deployed, for us, it was a very strange feeling going over there because we heard the stories. And when you actually talk to the unit, you talk to guys in the unit that's already there before you, and they tell you these things like, they're not telling these things to scare you, like they're trying to prepare you mentally and trying to prepare you to go over there. But the stuff we found from what they were telling us, the emails, the letters, were like, we all thought we were just, we're not gonna make it back. We're gonna die. There's no way we're coming back from this. So they lost a lot of guys initially on that deployment, and it's not because they were dumb or anything like that. It's just that's their homeland. That's what they want to fight for. So they fight pretty hard down there. In my unit, we had a couple casualties. Obviously the nicks and bruises, but the guys that do get nicked and bruised, they come back. But as far as casualties, people that actually passed away, I had a couple good friends that passed away. And yeah, they were all NCOs actually, which means they were team leaders and squad leaders. And like I said, it's a sad thing, but that's just a check you make payable to the U.S. when you join up. Medals and citations. My whole unit got an ARCOM for they call meritorious service, some foolishness like that. I have a CIB. I have a ARCOM with Valor. I'd have to look at my uniform, but I think that's about it. For us, battle planning. Battle planning for us is what we call a mission brief. So we have a couple different types of missions, but most of the missions we did is movement to contact, which is basically, as dumb as it sounds, is walking outside looking for contact, looking for people to shoot at you, looking for the enemy. So basically, mission planning was route plannings, because to plan your route there is really different. Like you can't take sidewalks and streets. There's no sidewalks obviously, but you can't take regular streets and pass because that's where they put IEDs. IED is an improvised explosive device which they use to injure U.S. soldiers, injure the general population. Basically a bomb on the ground that's triggered either by a cell phone or a pressure plate. You walk over it, blows you up, then they start shooting. It's like guerrilla warfare. So for us, where we were in Afghanistan is a big grape community. So they grow a lot of grapes. They grow a lot of fruits that need vines to grow. So they make these big mud walls, probably about 5 feet high, 3 feet wide. So we go through a lot of grape rows, cut through fields. We basically go the long way everywhere, because if you take the short way, that's how bad things happen. Injuries, TBI, pepper it with shrapnel, um, ricochets, nothing like that would, I would say kill somebody, but yeah, nothing that would keep me from staying overseas. Um, Other than that, it's just regular everyday stuff. Now I have the terminology for it. Uh, Basically, I got bad knees now. I'm carrying all the weight I carried overseas. I was probably 160, 170 pounds when I first went over. When I first went in, first time I went over. So 170 carrying 200 pounds doesn't really make much sense. It's not really good for your body. So that I have a messed up back, compressed disc. I'm carrying so much weight overseas, but I mean, like I said, it's nothing that would keep me from enjoying my daily life. It's just it's painful some days. Uh, I'll do three now. Staying in touch with my family. To be honest with you, like Apple was the greatest all the time for real, for real. Because you don't have like a traditional cell phone tower. There's basically none over there. So for us, we had internet, well, satellite internet, which is spotty, but it did work sometimes. So when it did work, I could FaceTime, I could, iMessage, and that was a real big thing. Cause I'm the only boy in my family, and probably I was the only one in the service, so it was a real big thing for my family to keep talking to me. Obviously, we also have letters like snail mail. We did that too. I wrote letters. That's like I don't think like anybody in my generation does that, but we wrote letters. Got care packages, all that type of stuff. Food. I'm West Indian, so how we eat. The food was trash, man. Like the food was probably one of the worst parts about it. MREs they're just horrible. And then as far as a cook, I'm a big stickler about people in the military. There's not many people that have to do their job or really care for their job. Like my job has people's lives dependent on it. Like either I do my job and my boy might get hit, my boy might die. A cook, he doesn't do his job, nothing really happens. It's not really a big deal in the big scheme of things. So we had one cook attached to us with like 6 or 7 Afghan helpers, Afghan nationals. I don't blame the Afghan nationals because they don't know what U.S. food's supposed to taste like, but he just basically let them prepare the meals, and they were like just trash. But I mean, it's enough to keep you going, so that's what really matters. Supplies, only supplies we really needed was bullets, and we had more than enough. In our AO, they knew like our battalion, our division, they knew where we are. We knew what we were doing, so they kept us well supplied. We never had an issue about going black on ammo. When I say going black, I mean running low on ammo. We never had that issue. We could shoot as much as we want, and that was actually encouraged in our area. Pressure is stress. I wouldn't say like you feel pressure. You get used to it. Like I said, it's like anything. For me, I felt like going to college and writing papers, even though that's what I'm doing now. Like I'm in college now. I felt that was more pressure than being shot at. Being shot at after a while just came. It was normal. It was an everyday thing. It was my norm. That was what was normal to me. So it doesn't. You don't feel pressure in that sense. Becoming a team leader, that's a little stressful because, like I said, you have other people's lives in your hand. Your decision, you're bad, you mess up one day, you not paying attention to something, not saying something, to me somebody gets hurt, somebody doesn't get to go home, somebody doesn't see their kids, their wife. Me personally, like I used to say all the time, like, I used to tell my boys, as nuts as it sounds like, yo, I'm single, man, I don't have no kids, man. If you really don't want to be a mine hunter, that you don't want to go touch that, like, I got you, man. Like, and it's a crazy thought, but that's just how the infantry is. Um, Good luck. I wouldn't be able to tell you what we did for good luck. It's one of those things, man. Like before you go out, it's pretty much silent. Everybody's getting their gear ready, getting their bullets ready, getting their weapons clean. All it's pretty much silent. We're not joking. We're not laughing because inside the compound, inside that little compound with 150 guys, 140, we had like 120. You're safe. You're good. You walk around in PT shorts and short shorts and a t-shirt. Like you don't really think that you're in Afghanistan, but like as soon as you leave those gates, it's a different feeling. So for us personally, good luck was just like I said, just being prepared. It wasn't luck; it's more so just being prepared for what we needed to do. So that was just every time we went out, that's just what we did. Entertainment is rare to come by. Obviously, like I said, there's no women around. Not that women are entertaining, but there's no women around. So for us, what we did was just you find entertainment and watching shows. Everybody downloaded Daniel shows before we go over there. Legally, by the way. We download movies, watch a lot of shows you probably wouldn't watch at home. Board games. Sometimes USO will ship you over a game system, so people play, Madden, play the 2Ks of the world on TV when they don't have nothing to do or work out, man. That's really about it for entertainment. It's not really much to do when you're on like a five or company operating base, something like that. Um, USO, there was no USO for us because we're so far down and we're such a like outpost that there's no such thing as USO for us. And leave was not something that the army really does anymore because they don't want soldiers to get out of the element of war and then come back to it. It's just hard to come back. So for us, it's go straight through, push through it. Then you don't leave when you come home. Um, Humorous events. For us, humorous events. So like I said, we also spent time like in Afghanistan. When I say in Afghanistan, like living next to cattle, like living in somebody's house that we took over. We commandeered for a while, whatever we had to do. One particular mission, I remember we were out for like a week, 2 weeks straight. In Afghanistan, we just moved from compound to compound to compound. And it was a night mission, and obviously at night we used night vision goggles, and we had to cross this little stream or creek, whatever you want to call it, probably about 3 feet wide. That's for anybody. That's very easy to do because you can do it. When you add 150 pounds to your body, it's a different type of jumping. You feel like you can do it, but you can't. And a lot of these creeks were not like freshwater creeks that you see on commercial Poland Spring. These are like what we call shit creeks or like poop creeks. They got actual feces running through these creeks. So that's how they do their plumbing overseas. So the funniest thing was you're trying to get relieved off a guard, you just turn around and you watch to see if people jump over the creek. I mean, you don't want nobody to fall, but there's somebody's gonna fall. So that's probably one of the funnier things that you get to watch people fall and can't get over over the grape roads. There's a lot of videos that you have this off your helmet cam and stuff like that you probably rewatch or time and time again. But it's funny stuff like that. What other funny stuff do we have happen overseas? That's the other thing. Overseas, like just less repercussions for your actions. Like if you flip a military vehicle at stateside, you're gonna hear about it. You're gonna get in a lot of trouble. But overseas, things just happen. These aren't like regular roads. It's not like driving on 91 South or something like that. These are like mud roads, mud bridges. And one of these days, my guy was driving. I was the gunner in the hatch, and I don't know how, but the bridge just gave out under him, and he ended up flipping his vehicle. It's like think of a giant Jeep. It's basically a giant Jeep. He flipped it, and we had a Afghan commander in it, and it was just like one of those days, like just seeing a flipped vehicle, like it's just comical, man. We were stuck for a good like 2 hours, but it's just one of those things like seeing something like that is not something you see every day, and then just clowning and joking around after it happened, clowning him because that's just not something that most people do. But yeah, there's a lot of funny stories. There's a lot of funny things that go on over there, but probably something you wouldn't think is funny, but funny to us. Pranks. There's a lot of pranks, man. Like my team, my squad leader, I should say, prank war. People buy. You got a lot of money. Make a lot of money over there. So people buy dumb stuff. People buy tasers. People buy like electric shocker. You sit down, you get shocked somewhere. People just do dumb stuff. So there's a lot of pranks that get pulled. A lot of foolishness. But I mean, it's all in good fun. Just or boredom. Either or. The officers and fellow servicemen. To this date, like those are my brothers. Like the infantry's a brotherhood. Point blank period. So to this day, any of them could call me for anything they needed, and I'd answer my phone. My officers were some of the best I would say in the units, but definitely the best in my unit. Like these dudes, they listened to their NCOs. They kept us safe, pretty much. Like they went to bat for us if we needed anything. Anybody got in trouble for anything foolish or anything that you could get brought up on charges overseas or something like that, they'd be the first ones there. My NCOs, which is non-commissioned officers like E5, my sergeants, they were dope. A lot of them had a lot of experience deployed, but they just took care of us, man. They're like my big brothers now. Like a lot of those dudes, I probably wouldn't have made it home with most of those dudes there, man. Like there's some real good dudes. And did I keep a journal? Not really, man. That's not. I think it's too movie. Like I don't think people really keep journals. But I mean, we do have videos and people did blog and stuff like that, but nothing really like a journal per se. All right, night to 5. Where was I when my service ended? Hypothetically, my service has not ended. I'm in the IIR, which is like infantry ready reserve, something like that. So hypothetically, if there was a conflict, I'd have to go back. But I would go back personally if there was a conflict, volunteering, just because that's just like it's not something that I really just say I didn't enjoy. My homecoming, but actually, no, let's go back. Now my service hasn't ended obviously, but like when my active duty service ended, you're still on base. You're still clearing the base. You're still turning your stuff in. The day that I was done, turned all my stuff in, had my paperwork set to get out, I was in Fort Lewis, Washington. I just remember taking off my uniform the last time, and I went to go sign out at battalion to go on vacation. Took like 2 months of vacation when I got out, and I had to drive back to the East Coast from the West Coast. I don't know, it's just a feeling like I don't know. I don't want to call it elation, but it's a good feeling knowing that you signed a contract, 3.5 years, 4 years, whatever you signed, and you did it, you completed it, and you're out. You're back to being yourself again. You can do what you want to do, say what you want to say. Um, it's a good feeling. So I enjoyed it when it happened. Um, my homecoming to Connecticut. Uh, the homecoming from Afghanistan I think was a little bit better because my parents hadn't seen me in like 12 months at that point, so they had a party. All my boys were here, all my aunties, my uncles. They had a little party for me, and that's just a good feeling knowing that you actually were. I say you were missed, but knowing that people actually care about you like that and they were worried about you. When you come home, everybody's always around. You know, it's food, drinks, laughing, chilling. Like it's a good feeling. Coming home after active duty was the same thing. It's the same thing coming home. They know you're done. They're happy for you to be home. You're out of like harm's way per se. So it was a good feeling coming home both times. I can't really compare that to anything. Um, Days and weeks afterwards, I was on 2 months of vacation, so I traveled a lot. Did nothing for like a good month. I didn't do anything at all. You know, I was still getting paid, relaxing, just decompressing. So like I said, the military is the military. You know, it's a routine, it's an everyday thing, and it's hard to get out of that routine. Like I still wake up early now. I still work out twice a day now. It's just one of those things that just becomes ingrained into you. So, but after when I first got out, I didn't do much. I just chilled out. Um, my education now is definitely supported by the GI Bill. Shout out to GI Bill. It's definitely dope. It helps servicemen basically after you do a certain amount of commitment to the military, they give you a GI Bill. What it does is it pays your school directly and it gives you a stipend. So hypothetically, now I don't have to work. I can live off my GI Bill. But you know, I like to indulge a little bit. So working and going to school for me is definitely where it's at. GI Bill is definitely a good service that the military created for soldiers, and it's definitely worth it. Close friends. Yeah, my closest friends are actually all my bros, man. All my brothers. Like we still text, we still talk. I got a group chat with like three of my closest friends in the military. We talk probably every day. Um, I got some guys that are out of the military now. He lives in Boston. I'll go see a baseball game with him, a Patriots game. Like these are my brothers, like legitimate. I didn't have any maternal brothers, so these are my legitimate brothers. I treat them as that way. And if I need a house to crash in D.C. or I need a house to crash in Washington, anywhere I want to go in this country, I probably have somebody in that state or close to that state where I can go stay, where I can go chill, go see. That's the benefit of having so many like brothers. And like I said, continuing my relationships. Social media makes that real easy nowadays. Like we can talk, we can text, we can be on Snapchat, IG, whatever you want to call it. So for us, like we're all close. It's like, almost as we never left. But there weren't many people that were close on the East Coast to me that were overseas with me. So the closest one is my boy Jackson. He's in Philly. So and I work for Amtrak. So when I do get a chance to go on the rails, go down south, I do stop in Philly, see my boy, see my bros. Obviously, I go to Boston, see my other brother, but the relationships are pretty easy to keep up. All right, and six. My career after my service. I am now an Amtrak conductor. I am a northern conductor, which means I work on the Vermont line towards Canada. Um, that's a real good career for me. I mean, to be working for Amtrak, obviously, is like I wouldn't call it a dream or something like that, but it's for me. It's something that keeps me active. I'm not in the office. I think I'd go crazy if I did something like that. You meet new people, you get to see new places, do new things, and for what I make and not having a college degree, it's pretty good to be working for Amtrak. Um, my military influence. On war, I think war's stupid. That doesn't mean I'm not a soldier. That doesn't mean I wouldn't go back. But I think war's stupid. War, nobody wins. It is what it is. It makes, in my opinion, makes otherwise good men do dumb stuff. But that doesn't mean it's not a necessary evil sometimes, you know? Like, I can't say World War II was a necessity because it was. But some other wars that we got into, I don't think that we should have got into them, but that's just my personal preference. That doesn't mean I wouldn't do what I had to do. Um, Veteran organizations. I am with the VA, I guess that you can call it a veteran organization. I have free healthcare for life because of my injuries overseas. But that's about it. I'm not in an American Legion or anything like that. I think I'm too young for that type of stuff. But I'm active in the VA. I go to the VA like once a year, whatever my requirement is. Reunions, we haven't had one yet, so that's the next thing. We're gonna have a reunion from all my infantry bros. But we make little reunions. Some people go on vacation, see each other here and there. My service and experience affect my life. The military as a whole, it made me a better person, like I should say. I'm a more disciplined person. At 24, I do things that I think the average 24-year-old probably doesn't do or think about, and I think that's where most people should be. But that's just life. It is what it is. I don't really have any negative experiences. Like everybody has issues. Everybody has problems, but like the good far outweighs the bad for me. That's it.
All right, Chris, it was a pleasure. Thank you for your service, and thank you for interviewing with us today.
No problem, B.